Anyway, my name is Matthew Bales. I am a 30-year professional big game guide. I guide deer and elk during the fall, bears, cougars, bighorn sheep, pretty much anything that walks, slithers, crawls, whatever. We generally guide and get put in the freezer. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover several different types, since I'm working off of a wilderness into things where the only body that knows where I'm at is generally my client and maybe a couple other guides, outfitter, things of that nature that knows a general idea of where we're at. But anytime you're hunting wilderness, your map reading skills are paramount. GPS, that's fine if you want to carry one, but the technology once you get up in the mountains and down in canyons, things like that, is just not there. I've seen them fail time and time again. I believe in one GPS, and that's God's positioning system, and the common sense goes further than anything on the planet. And so the compass into things, like I said, the batteries don't go dead on a compass. Anyway, that being said, I did kind of the same thing that the Rusty's. You take your natural environment. I mean, that's the reason I chose this site, because it had some of these natural, low-hanging, almost that cave type, to where you basically are going to spread your, I know it's fancy, but kind of the same idea, so I didn't have to open up a bunch of emergency blankets to do the same thing. Is you're doing the same thing. You're making yourself a cave. The back side of it is obviously closed in the same way. Low-hanging limbs, any brush that you can pile into it. I didn't get quite as judicious cutting pine needles, because like he did for his bed, but it's the same principle. If you want to, just depends on where you're at and what you're doing. If it's 30 minutes before dark, you're going to be doing that the next day anyway. Something that you can get in and under right now. Like I said, it's very, very basic. Same thing, you're just going to crawl yourself in there away from prevailing weather, just like with Rusty's or any other type. Wind, rain, snow, most of the time it's coming from the southwest, but not always. So wherever you're at and how that's coming at you, that's how you're going to set your shelter up. You may not have a choice. I just fell in the creek. I've got half an elk on my back. What am I going to do? Well, I've got food, so I ain't worried about that. Dump it off, but I can build something quick right now, because I just got wet, that I can crawl under and get out of it. Like I said, sometimes it's minutes. You can die in minutes. You know, if you still have hunts going on all around the West this time of year, so we know how cold it is. You fall in the creek or river, it's generally pretty short-lived. You know, it's a lot like the crabbing industry. Yeah, you go in the water. Yeah, it's very, very quick that you can die of hypothermia. So yeah, this is kind of that basic. Same thing, you're going to pile brush on top of naturally growing limbs. And if you wanted, you're going to pile brush on top of it. Same kind of thing, natural, quick environment. Now I'm going to move over to another one. This is probably my favorite, but I'm claustrophobic. So, but if you're in a situation where it's life and death, you will find out real quick what you can and cannot do. So what I generally do is I start out, I knot my holes. Same thing as I'm looking for brush. Find something with a fork, and I'm locking this into where it is not going to move. Very simple. Same thing, you got your pine boughs. Once again, fancy tarps. and you can adjust out however you need to get your height exactly right. Well, right, if you have something and you're going to do the same thing. Obviously a little bit longer. You're going to cover both sides. Guess I should have went a little wider. But you're going to do the same thing, and you're going to pile brush on top of that. Don't look like a lot of room, looks real uncomfortable. I assure you, it is.
Anybody want to get in?
I'll do it.
What you're going to do is you're going to put your feet down, same thing. You're going to have the snow and a pit, if you can get one, and you're going to go feet first, crawling in.
You might need that.
Always good to keep your head warm, though.
Yep. You're generally gonna tie these, and like I said, you're gonna obviously crawl down inside. You don't have to have a heater in there with you. Your own body heat. Idea is to use the reflective blankets to do this with, but this kind of gives just with a visual idea. But yes, these are generally tied. What I generally do is I actually dig them out to where they're only going to spread so far, but our ground is not giving us a whole lot of, yeah, to where obviously the snow or in the dirt where it's softer, you can.
Down there.
All right, you better crawl out of there then. But yeah, it's kind of the same principle as you have that pit dug. These would be tied.
I just turn around and call out.
Usually your boughs are a lot bigger.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not too big.
But yeah, the principle is absolutely the same as what he did there. You're going to have the pine boughs, and you're going to pile brush. But quick, down, dirty, easy. Actually, the way to really circumvent that, I'm just sitting here for a second, because I spend probably a lot more time than most people do, is carry as you carry what they call these little clips. Yep, and you just actually slap on. Depending on the weather, if it's hot or just you're trying to get out of the wind and rain, boom. You don't have to worry about having grommets in a particular tarp or carrying a whole bunch of string. You can catch it in a couple of places and take your ties kind of the other way. Very inexpensive. They come in a variety. These style are kind of the same way. They actually just push and they open up. Catch your tarp, same thing. Pinches your tarp, catch it with your string, same thing. That way you don't have grommets in a particular tarp, or emergency blankets don't have grommets. Or you can pick up rocks, wind it, same thing, just with a string, makes an auto grommet. And then there's the most basic, also quick, heavier cordage. I'm gonna step around this way. But the principle is absolutely the same. But if it's really nasty outside, obviously the lower to the ground, the absolute better. Same thing here is you're going to use your ties. To bring your tarp out to give you more room. Once again, kind of the same thing. Quick, easy. You can use the tie straps. You know, the same thing with the clips. Hook them in place. Like I said, very simple. Open up, clamp it on, tie it down. You know, pretty easy to carry an emergency blanket and a little bit of twine with you when you're out, depending on excuse me, how deep you're going. If you're hunting around where there's a lot of roads, obviously the local area, you can't get away from a road, it seems like. But same thing, you out here someplace between roads that say you trip and fall, you're out here doing whatever, coyote hunting or elk hunting or whatever, never take that into consideration. Oh man, I know where I'm at. I don't need to carry even the most basic of essentials like emergency blankets.
If you had a full like elk and you're taking it with you, what if you built this but you have nowhere to put your elk? Will you just lay it on the ground and put that emergency blanket over?
Basically what you do, like I said, if you have an elk, obviously you said unless there's a couple of you, you're only going to take out what they call quarters, whether it be hind quarters, shoulders, back straps, heads, all that kind of thing. What you're going to do is, if you're in a situation where you can't take an animal out whole, obviously a wilderness situation, you're going to take those quarters, you're going to do the same thing. Is you're going to look around and you're going to find things of this nature, and you're going to create props, because I don't care how much snow is on the ground, an elk 8 to 1,000 pounds got a lot of heat. You lay them quarters down on the snow, you will get bone sour, bone rot. So you're going to have things of this nature to where you can actually lay your front shoulders, hind quarters across, to where that air will circulate around them and cool them off. But yeah, just laying right down on the snow, that's no bueno. So that's the basic end of those things, but even simpler yet. And that's what they call a bivy sack. This is a waterproof, you can buy commercial made ones. I prefer military mattress covers, and you actually soak them in Thompson's water seal, you make them waterproof. Bivy sack, same thing. You don't have to have any of this. You can carry this in your pack straight away down on the ground. Emergency blanket to where you can crawl up close to the well of a tree, keep it off your head. Minus 40 mummy bag, goes right down inside. Who cares if it snows on you? That's just insulation. It's going to keep you warm because it's waterproof. As long as you keep your head dry, you can stay warm with. And I carry all this stuff in my pack just for that. You know, that's the most simple out of all the shelters is a bivy bag. It doesn't weigh anything, about a pound. And the same thing with the sleeping bag. That stuffed sack, it's minus 40. That combination right there, I've used in Canada. That's 2.5 pounds. Who can't carry 2.5 pounds with them? If you're getting far enough away from a road or whatever that you'd actually use something like that. But the principles are always kind of the same. Quick. Always thinking quick. This is probably the quickest shelter. Obviously, like with what Rusty was doing, a little more labor intensive. But the basic principles, he could rough it out, boom, and the next day comes, then you go a little deeper, a little further. You don't have to try to build a log cabin all in one day. Same thing. As long as you get under that basic cover to where you can pin these down, the next day you can start cutting brush, stacking it, snow, stacking it, any kind of debris, sagebrush, bitterbrush, and just keep packing it around it and just improve. If you're going to be there more than overnight or a day or two, the military calls them debris huts. Same principle. You're running 550 cord, and you're obviously you're tying them. Same thing. You're digging in to where your poles are not moving. And just your standard, either what they call a basha, which is Australian for tarp. They use a lot in the outback. A lot of people don't think it's cold in Australia. It does. Really cold. And it also gets really hot. You got both extremes. You have, mountains there just like you do here, and extreme heat. But it's the same principle. During the Civil War, this was probably the most common, obviously, was the basha. Straight down, they didn't really care whether those guys were warm, whatever, as long as they could get out of the weather. That's all they cared about, just getting out of the weather. But like I said, this is my favorite because even being claustrophobic, is because it's small and you can keep your own body heat. And you want to be able to breathe, obviously keep it, but if you want to keep more heat in, same thing. If you don't have a sleeping bag, you can take your coat, you can pick up the duff, pine needles, those kind of things, or a trash bag, fill it full of that, and you drag it in behind you to where you actually create a stop, depending on how big you're making it. Myself, at roughly 6'4", I'm not going to build it much bigger or longer than I am tall, just to keep that compact and not lose so much heat. So, that being said, I think we've covered, just the basic shelter end of things. This one, like I said, is the most simple out of all.
Our Uncle Ernie, he lived down in California, but he's dead now. He had some kids and put them under. They had a blizzard. They had a blizzard, and he was running back to the main road on his horse, and he buried some kids because they couldn't come with him. They got hypothermia and lost some toes and fingers, but he had to stay, he had to camp overnight because the blizzard was too bad, and he knew the horse couldn't, survive through it, so he killed the horse, skinned it, took all the blood out, and laid in it.
Yeah, that's the thing. People think that only happens in the movies, but yeah, unfortunately, that's not the case for upsetting you horse lovers.
So this was our grandpa.
Okay.
He got a couple of kids to go hunting.
Okay.
And what he did with the kids was they had the dogs with him. So he laid all the dogs around the kids and dug the trench and buried the snow at the top of it. And basically what he did was, when he killed the horse, he covered it with snow and laid inside of it for the night. And then he woke up in the morning.
See, that's just it, and that goes back to the question he had with if obviously you kill a bull elk or whatever by yourself, or even two people, depending on how far you are back in the mountains or whatever the case is, that ain't something even the stoutest of men are going to just pick up and move. But same thing. You lay it right down, that heat's going to stay in that meat. Same thing with a horse or cow or water buffalo, whatever it is that you want to crawl inside of. It's the same principle. You're not going to lose anything in the ground, and with the snow on top, same thing. You're not going to lift anything. If you notice, here in the wintertime, your house, if you have whether electric or wood heat, and it's cold like it was this morning, 15, 16 degrees, and you build, a fire in your wood stove, and how long it seems like it takes to get the house warm, put a foot of snow up on your roof, that house warms up immensely quicker. It's kind of that same thing. Is once you have that insulating factor, the more, you start simple, and then then you just start building around it. If you're going to end up being stuck, or if you're hurt, you're not going to travel, you can survive in this for a fair amount of time, because if you don't have that shelter, you're not going to be rested. That if I do need to be out signaling. I need to be out looking for some kind of sustenance, food, water, things of that nature. Like I said, you can live a couple of days without those things, but shelter, that's the number one. You've got to have it. I know from Rusty's experience, kind of the same thing. Search and rescue, it can go down to absolute minutes, and people just, oh man, I've got time, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to build a fire. Well, if you watch these kids, obviously for the last 30 minutes, how long it's taken them just to get what they've got right there. Are you going to stay awake all night long, wandering around in the woods, picking up brush to feed that? You're going to be so stinking tired, you ain't going to do nothing the next day except for lay there and probably freeze to death. Plain and simple, you are going to freeze to death. You got to have that shelter first. Then you can worry about the fire afterwards. So, I think that about covers that part of it. Question?
When you're, I know you're talking about one of the first things to do, but when you are doing the fire, and there's not really much around to help get the smoke up, isn't rubber one of the best next things to use to help get that black smoke?
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, if you look on some of these trees, I'm trying to look and find out if there is one right here, but most of these pine trees, you'll see that yellow hard pitch on the outside of them. I'm notorious, I'll go around the property and actually pry those big chunks of that pitch off and then melt them down. And just like you've seen with the fire starters that I built, that hard yellow pitch, it smokes like the dickens. But yeah, if you had a piece of rubber or something like that, don't go cutting the sole off of your boot or anything like that. But
here's one starting right here.
Where you've kind of got that little cancer where the beetles have chewed into it. But yeah,
I have a comment for my brother's question.
Okay.
What wood can also get smoke going? Basically about any kind of dry wood or wet wood. Wet wood obviously is going to smoke more so, but you've got to get the flame up first. You can light this green, it's going to smoke for a while, but if you have a good base first, the absolute best once your fire's going is just your boughs, because there's just a ton of creosote in the needles. You will get a lot of smoke in a hurry, because we're talking like the natural end of things. Obviously, yeah, if you're setting out to do some survival type stuff, you're going to carry a bag, and I will cover that when we drop down the hill. Along with the different little shelters and things, obviously we know, like with the wind, the way it came here the other day, some people out power for a couple hours, some even more so. I know there's folks down at Crescent that are probably still without power. Same kind of thing scenario, whether it be a hit the fan or you're out in the woods, scenarios of survival are absolutely the basic things are still there. Things you have around your house, coffee cans, fruit cans, whatever the case may be. Briquettes. Same thing, you're taking that yellow pitch that you take off your trees, or the little Sterno cans, the little canned heat gel, and they're all portable. You talk about like their little shelters, you have something like that inside of a small shelter. That temperature changes in an absolute hurry. Even like the little tea lights, if you get 2 to 3, 4 degrees above freezing, that psychological actually sets in more than anything. People go, man, I have some comfort, I have shelter, and I have just a little bit of warmth. It ain't a lot, but like I said, it's 95% psychological. So, and everybody has these kind of things generally around their house, unless you're, totally like organic and everything you're taking out of the field. You're going to eat fruit or canned vegetables, things like that. As I said, just dryer lint, charcoal briquette, and just pitch. Or, I actually rendered out
fat from the buck that I killed this year. Same thing. Egg cartons. Dryer lint. Melt that pitch along with that deer fat. You can even buy Crisco if you want and do the same thing. You just get that soaked, or Vaseline, petroleum jelly, same kind of thing. You got that wet, same thing. You just tear them off and just absolutely light them. But yeah, it's kind of that same principle. I mean, obviously most woods people know, or should, in this part of the world, basically what pitch stumps look like. Free fire starter. I laugh every time I go into Ace Hardware or Bi-Mart and I see fat wood, $12 for a box. How much of this can you cut in about an hour's time? Probably just in the woods back here about 50, 75 yards, more than you could burn in about 10 lifetimes in about an hour's time. Same kind of thing. You see what it looks like. I know in our survival class, you're talking about what it looks like. Pretty much every one of these big stumps out here has got pitch in it. Some more than others. So you got those. Yeah.
The smell too.
Oh yeah, well that's just it. I mean, you have any inclination, grab a, because I mean everybody's gonna, if you're out, the most basic of tools, obviously, a hatchet if you're out hunting or whatever, the same thing, is you come to a big stump, hey, I wonder if it's got pitch. Same kind of thing, you're gonna whack that dude. It smells like freaking pine sol. That's pretty much easy. Easy. You know what it smells like. You know what it looks like once it's obviously made into, you're splitting. Of course, I get big fat fingers, so that doesn't help. I'm going to start a couple of those around there, obviously. There's your, just run them around there. Obviously, same thing. I mean, we all, and then, yeah. But obviously, kind of the same thing is, you just, obviously, whether you have 1 acre or 10 acres on your property, you have trees, we all know what pitch looks like, hopefully. What's that?
Pitch nuggets.
Pitch nuggets, absolutely. I take a chisel outside, and I do. Every time I see big blobs of it, off it comes. He's shaking the head, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. God made it, so it's got to be good.
That's all right.
You can't get past that. So natural, and we're not at the Ace Hardware or the Bi-Mart going, hey, there's no more of that.
It's on back order.
Yeah, it's on back order. Oh dang, now I guess I'm just not going to be able to build a fire. Okay, and that's just kind of the way. These things that absolutely make no sense to me, that the things that are absolutely free. And then if you want to go a little more high tech, and that is magnesium in flint. Magnesium burns at 5,400 degrees. And if you knock a section, basically like what I've done here, about the size of a quarter, little pitch busted up into it right there, that's what that was started with this morning. Just 3 clicks and you have a fire. If you want to carry magnesium around with you, like I said, it's 5,400 degrees. So once you get it actually fired, do not stick your hand down in there to grab that tinder to throw it into something else, because it will burn plumb to the bone right now. So it's just easier to use pitch than it is magnesium. Plus it's a heck of a lot cheaper. These run about $20, I think. Something like that in most of your What's that? You can buy them at Bi-Mart or, you know, probably Army, Navy store, that kind of stuff. Somebody gave me this one because, what's that? Army surplus? You know, so yeah, like I said, 5,400 degrees. That's pretty hot. Like I said, I mean, you take a hunting knife versus, I mean, this one here, I actually took a little piece of hacksaw blade. You know, same thing. You just scrape a pile about the size of a quarter, a little bit of pitch on top of it, throw it down in there. Boom. She's lit. We're doing it right now, but 18, 20 bucks, hundreds of fires that you want to build. So not a bad tool to have if you're carrying like day packs, things like that, if you're actually hunting. I mean, all the stuff I've showed you up top, just like anything else, is I carry everything that I need to survive for up to a week in this day pack. That's the bivy bag, the sleeping bag, the emergency blankets, pitch, things of that nature, all your signal things, bright colors. I hate orange as far as if you're going to be out hunting or whatever, because to me you just look like nothing but a big target. But if you are in a wilderness situation and your hunting gets lost, a whole lot easier to see you wearing something of that nature right there. Things that go along with, if you don't want to carry that much weight, because that's about 45 pounds. And I do that throughout the fall. So yeah, it does get a little daunting. Emergency sleeping bags, just like the emergency blankets, same kind of deal. The reflective, it weighs not very much, but same kind of thing. It will save your hiney. They make tents the same way, up to two man in the foil stuff. Same kind of thing. If you don't, because most people aren't going to carry tarps, but you can carry a couple of these, or the little tent version itself, along with not just signaling things, noisemaker. Do you want to try this out, Eric?
No, I'm good.
I mean, obviously with, yeah, some of the most annoying sounds on the planet. Obviously it doesn't work quite as, you better show them how to work this thing. To me, I use a firearm, but whatever.
Something like that.
And supposedly you're supposed to be able to hear these kind of things.
Can you do it one more time?
Yeah. Supposedly up to 1.5 miles. Well, if you're in the wilderness, 1.5 miles just means you just left the trailhead. You're not far. You're.
Elk going.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you just kind of, yeah. To me, yeah, they're more of a. I think probably more of a joke than anything. I mean, honestly, I can take a 30-06 or a 300 Win Mag brass, take my pocket knife, knock a notch in there, pop a little hole. You can hear that at 3.5 miles. So, the ready-made or the rifle brass, which I prefer, or you can have a whistle. It's up to the individual. You know, what kind of stuff you want to carry in a day pack, or, I mean, obviously if I'm hunting deer in the Fort Rock unit or Paulina, I'm not carrying that pack with me. Is it in my rig? Absolutely. I can survive. I carry a 5-gallon bucket of pitch in this vehicle all times. Because, I mean, it gets stuck out there someplace. Well, obviously you got a ready-made shelter, but I can also open up the back, stay in there, whatever. You can still build a fire, or you can just go ahead and light the whole 5-gallon bucket, walk away from it, and have yourself a real big fire and claim insurance. So, if you want to go that route, I don't suggest that, but you can do that in the different ways. Most are pretty familiar with the little FRS radios. In this kind of country, fairly open. They say they have 22-mile range, about 5 at the most. When we use these in the mountains, these ones are actually chipped. These ones will actually reach the 23 miles because they are chipped to where you're running sat phones, things like that, because you're in the middle of a wilderness area and you need a medevac. If it won't go any more than a couple miles, yeah, you're in dire straits, in more of a hurry. So yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and just in the best circumstances around here, yeah, 5 miles would be, and you better be on a straight line and not in in a pole thicket, because then it's just like, it makes a better chuck than it does anything else. Anyway, all of this stuff up here, feel free, emergency blankets, face masks, things like that. Obviously, just like with sunglasses, most people, what are you gonna wear sunglasses in the snow? I don't know, I kind of like my eyesight, so yeah, sunglasses are good, but same thing, these are kind of work as a heat exchanger. Once again, it comes back to basic clothing. That's your first number one shelter, is clothing. Wool is my personal favorite. It's a little bit heavier, but same thing with your base layers, things of that nature. Under Armour, top and bottom. We all know cotton absolutely will kill you in a cold, wet environment because it ain't nothing but a sponge. It will never dry out enough. The heating value is just not there, like with the microfibers and wool and things of that nature. So like I said, the high vis, and obviously footwear, that's kind of the same thing. You're going to adjust whatever environment that you're in, whether it be, like I said, like a working logging boot. This time of year, like I said, this type of temperatures, do I want to elk hunt in those?
Probably not.
No.
My feet are cold now.
That's what I'm saying. Same thing. Here, like I said, I'm wearing, these are minus 40s. Do I need to wear them today? No, because my feet are on fire. They're hot. They're sweating. Yeah, I bet you would, because they're minus 40, but they're dry. So that's kind of that whole thing. Wool socks, all that. You can always carry those extra little items with you that you need to trade out, which, wool is obviously still king for that, but 30% or better. That way you get away from the typical wool itch in socks or any type of your undergarments, things like that. I said cotton is just, like I said, once again, no bueno. All the super clothes, the Kuyus and Sitka gear and all that kind of stuff, it looks cool. Don't get me wrong, the camo patterns, absolutely, they can sell people on that stuff all day long. I work with a whole fleet of guides that wear that kind of stuff. You rip $400 pair of pants out there, brother, you get wet, you're done. I can wear wool, or I can wear Ripstop Gore-Tex. Same thing, don't weigh nothing, and about 35 bucks. So, same thing. You can wear that high-end gear if you want, or you can just spend your money more wisely and buy just the basic stuff. You don't have to buy Under Armour. You can buy several brands on the market now that 20 bucks versus 120 for the same long sleeve shirt. So there are options out there. You don't need to break the bank on any survival stuff. Even the survival class that we did in the classroom that showed bug out bags and the uses of everything that were in each guy's bag and the uses of them, you don't need to tie up as much money as a guy thinks. I know Kurt, big proponent of that. Right, you don't have to go to the ends of the earth, but just the most basic of items that may absolutely, less than 20 bucks, I survive. Now, somebody that maybe from Ben's west side that has absolutely no clue about any of the stuff we're talking about, it wouldn't matter. You could outfit the mindset that's not thinking, oh, this is never going to happen. Well, maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I'm hinging my bet it will. It's just a matter of when on all of this stuff. So, same thing. We've all seen the power go out. Some people, it was 2 or 3 hours. Some people, I know ourselves, went out at 11. Came on sometime before midnight, I guess, mid-state. Well, obviously in a grid down situation, Cascadian event, you're not going to have that power grid. So just the most basic of things that we share, everybody can do. You can keep these basic items around because most of them you've probably looked at all your life and thought, oh, let's cut the bottom out of that, it goes to the recycling. Well, I don't know, like I said, I guess if you built, like a TP or something like that and had that in the middle of it, changing the temperature 4 or 5 degrees, you'd probably think, I'm a pretty smart fella right there. I've got something. And just like the Swedish candles, I mean, obviously this one, the wind caught and burnt one side. This one burnt pretty much straight down the center. This was don't be scared. This one actually had a soft rot spot in it. But same thing. Pack a little bit of that pitch stuff in it. Right in the center of it. You already had dry rotten wood on the inside of it. Lit it, and it's been burning since 10 o'clock this morning. That size right there, whether it be a hollow log or like this size in this neighborhood right here, 8 to 10 hours with one piece of firewood. How many pieces are you throwing in your wood stove at home to keep warm for 10 hours? A wheelbarrow load. And you can cook on it, obviously. I mean, you can set a skillet on there. Your camp coffee pots, things of that nature. I know the Swedish military, most of your Northern Europeans, this is the way their military trains, because like I said, you got one piece of firewood, and each guy carries a small piece of firewood. You can carry a cord of wood with a platoon of men. And each guy's got his own heat source. That's not a bad deal. You're making coffee, you're making beans, you're making bacon. It's just those kind of mindsets that people just don't really think about, but it is so simple. So very simple. Eric, you're my man on the saw. You want to do a Swedish candle. Pie-shaped cuts. Yep, do pie-shaped cuts. And we're going to use Eric as our test dummy because he presently still works for Walker Fire Patrol. So
Did you run this thing earlier?
I didn't fire it, so now you get to jerk your arm out of the socket. That's why you are the guinea
That's why I
pig.
don't run still.
Hey, there you go. Bob's your uncle. It fired.
That yours is real stiff. How far down?
That's basically for demonstration. Just run her down 5 inches or so. Pretty simple, less than 30 seconds. I mean, if you want to go further, but it gives a faster burn rate, you're going to cut 2 more times. Same kind of thing is the whole idea when you light them up And I mean, basically pitch. If you want to have cool entertainment for all your relatives and stuff, use about a cup of diesel. Dump it in there early in the morning after you've done that. When they come over for a barbecue, boom, Bob's your uncle. You look like a hero. Looks pretty cool. Like, hey, where did that come from? But yeah, obviously the more cuts you make on it, the faster burn rate. But with 4, you're gonna get, that thing's gonna burn all day long and into the night. You put the other cuts, you're gonna get about 3.5, 4 hours out of it. For entertaining purposes, once again, you look like a hero. So, thank you, Eric. Any questions on anything that we've covered today? I mean, obviously, I see this pile of brush over here. I'm thinking kids want to start some fires. We have a little bunch of pyros in here. Raise your hands. Yeah.
2 of them in the car, too.
Yeah, 2 of them in the car. I'm gonna give the kids some options. You use fire starter? Oh no! I'm gonna give you a stick and a string, and you're gonna make a bow out of it. You're gonna do it the old-fashioned way. Yeah, it works exactly. If you wanna, but to me, I like to use pitch. Pitch is good, and it's free. And a whole lot faster, absolutely. Or there's the factory-made pitch, which these are good. We use these a lot, like on second season elk hunts, because we tend to have older clients and stuff. A lot of them sit on stands where us guides have to push nasty brush, and these guys get cold. So you can take one of these and find a slash pile like you see out here, just a short ways off a road, throw it up in a slash pile and have yourself a bonfire, and these guys are standing there and they can keep nice and warm. Absolutely.
Wildland firefighters love that too.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, we're working together.
Here we are.
We're working together on this right here. It's like, yeah, whatever we catch on fire and we making money killing elk and deer turns over into him. It's one hand washes the other. They're gonna.
That's why they changed to put it prescribed burns instead of control burns.
Yep.
Here's your pyros.
All right, pyros. All right, all you kids that seem to wanna build fires. Now, you gonna build a couple of different fires, or what you got going? Yeah, I seen all of you over there compiling around wood, so because it looks like there's a pile of you.
Of all the kids.
All right.
To get the consensus and then go from there.
Yep, you better talk to your cohorts over there. That's right. And we want to see what you guys want to do. We're going to do a couple of different versions.
Do not do this at home.
Please do.
And there's your emergency blanket. You fellas got and there's your, yep. You fellers go after it.
You're gonna be a crowd in your partner or two.
My daughter.
You wanna
Here, come back here. Yep, come right back here. What you're gonna do, I'll give you a little hand here, is actually just go ahead and take, and remember what we did up there?
Yeah.
We just kind of dug that, just to keep that from moving.
Yeah.
Same thing with that one. However wide you want to go, it depends on how.
Probably not too wide.
So I just gave you the, and then you gotta have your long one.
That's right there, you just so did that.
Okay. What we're gonna do is we'll slap that one in, and then go ahead and get your long one there. You want to, let's change positions here, make it a little easier for ourselves so we don't whack somebody in the noggin. All right, we want a layer pole in there. All right, and we're going to go one step further, feller. We're going to go this route. All right, we got our tarp on there. Beautiful. Then we're going to take that bugger right there. Same kind of thing. Then once we're over top of it, then we can take to where we can close that gap down at the bottom and give ourselves, you just go ahead and run it down to where, that way once we're making contact with, down a little further, all right, want to go boogie up that hill right there and grab a couple of them other sticks that we used up there. Be careful on that ice, you know, because if it's the situation where we're talking about, I know I don't want to go into the whole idea with off-grid kind of things and things hitting the fan. That's, as you get a little older, to explain those things, but to camouflage and keep a lower profile to where if somebody wants to take what you have, you need to be able to survive, and then it becomes, you know, the art of camouflage. Then the foil stuff is okay for the heat retention, but you want to cover it up with the brush, just to, you don't want them exactly these low profile ones, and there's a reason why military uses these for that, because guaranteed, a sniper can lay in that thing and wait for days, and days and days and days. He got a place to sleep, and all he has to, until that time comes to come to the rifle, he's completely hidden. Because they make these same emergency blankets that are reflective on one side and just a mat on the other. The crowd may, yeah, exactly, they back out of it going, whoa, this kid's had enough. Well, you jerk the dog's tail or ears long enough, the dog is going to bite, absolutely. Simple biblical teaching right there. Pull the dog's ears, you're going to get bit. Basically, which way you can, another way you can go, fellas, is say where you want to stop your wind, but also is, you know, say you can actually, you put a rock in each one of those and you tie a string to where you can open it up, but leave one side open.
Normally the wind would blow wet.
Well, it would depend on which way the weather's coming from, but if you have it fastened, if you have a fire of some small, it's going to reflect off of this, and your heat's going to go in there, and you still have that protection from the wind, but you can also gain a lot more heat with your reflective side and still have a wind protection. You guys are figuring it out. That right there is the Hilton.